Senator Bernie Sanders has been highlighting daily, pointing to the party's platform. Here's Sanders in the Huffington Post, quote, "They want to repeal every piece of major legislation that has been signed into law over the past 80 years that has protected the middle class, the elderly, the children, the sick, and most vulnerable in this country." And the Kochs haven't been shy about using their money to try and influence the country in a more libertarian direction. Think Progress reports that the brothers are not just spending their money to influence politics. Quote, "The Koch brothers also funnel millions of dollars into the education system, using their network of conservative groups." A new report from the Center on Public Integrity finds that Koch groups delivered more than $12.7 million to 163 colleges and universities around the country in 2012. According to the report, two Koch groups that are funded by the Koch brothers are either vaguely more specifically oriented around libertarian and conservative ideas. For example, the Charles Koch Foundation contracted the economics department at Florida State University to select professors through a Koch-appointed committee. So it's not exactly unusual for an institute with the Koch name on it to go outside the realm of traditional politics and toward social issues. But will forums like the one last night in Texas help change people's view of the Koch brand? Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont joins me now. Senator, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And I don't know if you were able to hear Gary Bledsoe from the Texas NAACP, but he talked about working with the Koch Institute in the area of criminal justice, even as he's fighting, in many cases, Koch-funded groups who he says are the far right that are removing the moderate members of the Republican Party from the state legislature. Do you see a contradiction there?
Well, I don't want to question the motives of people who are involved on that issue, which is a huge issue. We have a significant percentage of young African Americans who are in the criminal justice system, and we've got to do something about that. But this is what I do know. The Koch brothers, as you've just mentioned, are the second wealthiest family in this country. And as a result of Citizens United, they have and will spend hundreds of millions of dollars, if not over a period of time, billions of dollars, to elect candidates to office who believe tax breaks for the wealthiest people and major cuts or the privatization of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, education. They are, the Koch brothers, helping to lead the war, in my view, against working families in this country, and are part of the reason that we have so much wealth and income inequality, such that the rich are doing much richer, are getting much richer, while everybody else is seeing a decline in their standard of living.
And I want to pull a little bit of a quote from what you have actually put on your website, and you're talking about the Koch brothers. You said the Libertarian Party platform in 1980 called for abolishing the minimum wage, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and income taxes. David Koch was the candidate for vice president that year on a ticket headed by Edward Clark. They thought Ronald Reagan was too liberal. Today, David Koch and his brother Charles have turned those 1980 extremist ideas into mainstream Republican Party orthodoxy by putting their fortune behind right-wing politicians and think tanks. Why, sir, are you now, and other people who oppose the agenda of the Koch brothers, are really taking to highlighting them specifically, highlighting the Kochs personally? Why are you doing that?
Joy, I will tell you why. I fear very much, and I think people may think that I'm overstating this, I fear very much that this country is losing its democratic foundations and moving toward an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires will control not only the economy, but the political life of this nation. What you are looking at right now is an extreme right-wing family who believe all the things that you've just indicated. They don't believe that we should simply not raise the minimum wage. These guys believe that we should do away with the minimum wage, and if you had to work for $3 an hour or $2 an hour, that's freedom. That's your freedom. And these guys believe that we should privatize Social Security, massive cuts in Medicaid, no support for women's rights, etc. They believe the federal government is terrible, and they want to move toward a society where the big money interests control the economy and the political life. I highlighted the 1980 Libertarian platform for a simple reason. In 1980, that party got 1% of the vote, and most people thought that these guys were pretty crazy, pretty extreme, pretty out there. If you look at the issues they talked about then, their point of view, many of those same ideas are now mainstream Republican Party. You talk about minimum wage, You have most Republicans now in Congress not only opposed to raising it, they believe we should abolish the concept of the minimum wage. That's what the Koch brothers talked about 34 years ago. Social Security, Medicare. Look at the Ryan budget. What you are seeing is, as a result of the Koch brothers and others, a Republican Party moving from what used to be a right-center party, a moderate conservative party, to a right-wing extremist party. That is probably the most important development in recent politics, the degree to which the Republican Party has moved to the right and has no stomach for moderates in their party anymore.
Yep, and yet there is some irony that the one area there seems to be convergence between left and libertarian right is this issue of criminal justice. Thank you so much, sir. Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, next, Sebelius for Senate. We'll read between the lines on the Democrats' new potential play for Kansas.